This message has no affiliation with the Department of War. Good evening, everyone. Stay with us today as we go over the topic of abortion, describe all types of the abortion process, and the way forward. This is the Martin Memo. The Martin Memo. All right, well, welcome on to the podcast. If for those of you who do not know, this is actually the editor-in-chief.
It's so weird sitting in this seat. Usually I'm behind the camera.
Yeah, you're normally in that seat back there that people can't see. But today you decided to join the pod and discuss one of the most passionate things that you believe in, and that is the topic of abortion. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty and everything, how about you just tell the people online here a little bit about the wonderful Rebecca.
My name is Rebecca Cow. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Grants Pass, Oregon. I'm married to my wonderful husband, who is also here right now. We got married in July, so pretty recently. And then I moved here to North Carolina. And then I ended up dog sitting for Martin. And that's how I'm here now as his editor-in-chief, unfortunately. It's a really hard job having to deal with him.
Right, because I'm very demanding. So
yeah, well, I'm also a Christian, and I'm also pregnant with my husband and my first child, which is now the size of the lemon. I brought a lemon. This is the size of our baby right now, the approximate weight as well.
I love it. I love how that started recent. I don't know how long it's been going on. I've only heard of it recently, how everyone now is tracking their baby with foods. I think it's just hilarious.
Some
fruits and
breakfast
veggies.
Foods too. Our baby was the size of a Cheerio at 5 weeks, I think.
A Cheerio, that's great.
Yeah. I'm 14 weeks pregnant.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right, so I think before we start, I just want to find out what sparked your personal commitment to the pro-life movement. Was it a specific experience, family? What made you decide to go on that side?
Yeah, so I'm Christian, and I've always believed that abortion is wrong. I believe that human life is worthy of protection even in the womb. God planned everybody's existence. But whenever I argue abortion, I always argue logically. I think maybe in high school I really started thinking about abortion and thinking about how absolutely gruesome it is. I just don't understand how people can think that this is okay, I started debating some people in high school. I've had some really good debates with some people, some really respectful debates, some not so much, but yeah, I think in high school I became a lot more focused on that.
Absolutely. As someone who's deeply invested in this line of work, how do you balance the emotional weight of pro-life advocacy with the joys of everyday life like family or hobbies?
Yeah, well, I do like to spend a lot of time educating myself, and if anyone wants to talk to me about abortion, I spend time having conversations with people when they come up. But aside from that, I haven't really gone to any protests for the pro-life movement. I haven't really had the opportunity to do so. At the school I went to, it was a lot of walkouts for LGBT rights and stuff like that. A lot of things that I didn't really align with. So, yeah, but personal life, I get to take care of myself and take care of this baby growing in me now. So, I feel like that more so gives me reason to believe in what I believe in.
Absolutely. From your perspective, what are the most compelling scientific or medical developments in recent years that strengthen the case for protecting life at consumption?
So I'm going to start with National Institutes of Health. Biologists from 1,058 academic institutions around the world, 96% of them agree that life begins at conception.
Wow.
That's 5,337 out of 5,577.
Wow.
So when you say that my stance on life begins at conception is not backed by science, it absolutely is. And then I want to go into week-by-week development. So starting at week 5, the neural tube develops, which then develops into the brain, spinal cord, and other neural tissues of the central nervous system. The heart tube pulses at 110 beats per minute by the end of week 5.
Wow.
At week 6, arm and leg buds form, blood cells take shape, circulation begins, facial structures begin to form like ears, eyes, and mouth. At week 7, bones replace cartilage and genitals begin to form. At week 8, major organs and body systems are developing. Babies have web-like hands and feet. Eyes are visible and ears begin to form. At week 9, teeth and taste buds begin to form. The babies also have muscles and are able to make movements. At week 10, arms, hands, fingers, feet, and toes are fully formed. Fingernails and toenails begin to develop. Teeth also harden in this stage. At week 11, the baby is able to open and close their fists and mouth. Knees and elbows and ankles are able to move as well, though you won't really feel anything until around week 18. At week 12, organs, limbs, and bones and muscles are all present. The circulatory, digestive, and urinary systems work, so the baby begins, this is such a funny fact, the baby around 12 weeks begins drinking the amniotic fluid and also peeing it out, and it circulates entirely every 4 hours. I could go on, but I would just really like to emphasize that within the first 12 weeks, so much development happens. A lot of the organs are present. For goodness sake, the baby's blood is pumping, Yeah. They're able to move around. They have muscles. They have bones. They have a brain, So I want to go into abortion procedures. There's 4 main abortion procedures that are performed, 2 of them in the first trimester, 1 in the second, and 1 in the third. And I'm going to go over each of these quickly. These are all very hard to listen to, very hard to hear. And I think it scares a lot of people on the pro-choice side when people start to list this off, because I don't think they really understand how gruesome abortion is. So, first trimester abortion, a lot of people have heard of this. This is the medical abortion, the abortion pill. This can be used up to 10 weeks, but sometimes it is used off-label up to 12 or 13 weeks. So it's 2 pills. The first pill is mifepristone, which blocks the hormone progesterone. Progesterone thickens the uterine lining to support pregnancy and also prevents ovulation during pregnancy. Blocking progesterone prevents the baby from receiving vital nutrients and oxygen, which basically starves the baby of vital nutrients and oxygen. After taking the first pill, it is reversible. There's a website, I believe it's called abortionpillreversal.org, where if you are administered progesterone, you can actually stop the process. The second pill is misoprostol, which is taken 24 to 48 hours after the first pill, and it causes contractions to expel the fetus. Planned Parenthood will describe this like having a really heavy, crampy period, or the process is very similar to an early miscarriage. But if you go online, here's some stories from women who have taken the abortion pill. They'll say it's not like that at all. There's also the trauma of expelling your fetus into the toilet. You see the fully formed baby in your blood, and then you're told to just flush it. Effectiveness. At 8 weeks, 94 to 98% effective. 8 to 9 weeks, 94 to 96% effective. 9 to 10 weeks, 91 to 93% effective. 10 to 11 weeks is 87% effective. And then I have some statistics on the dangers of this pill, actually, because if you say that abortion is safe for women, it really isn't. Mm-hmm. This is according to the Ethics and Public Policy Center. Between 2017 and 2023, of 865,727 prescribed mifepristone abortions, 10.93 experience an adverse event, such as sepsis, infection, hemorrhaging, etc., within 45 days. This is 22 times higher than the less than 0.5% in clinical trials reported on the drug label. 4.73% of women who had these abortions visited the ER, which is 40,960 women. 2.84% needed surgery, a repeated surgical abortion, because it didn't work taking the pill, and that's about 24,563. Suction, aspiration, D&C abortion is also first trimester between 5 and 13 weeks. A speculum is inserted into the vagina to open the vagina and access the cervix. The cervix is the entrance to the uterus. It stays closed during pregnancy to protect the baby. Then metal rods called dilators are inserted into the cervix to open it. The dilators will increase in thickness. A suction catheter is then inserted through the cervix into the uterus. The baby is torn apart and suctioned out, followed by the placenta. A curette is used to scrape the lining of the uterus in an attempt to prevent an incomplete abortion. An incomplete abortion is where pieces of the baby or placenta are left behind, leading to infection or bleeding. Possible risks and adverse effects of this abortion include perforation or laceration of the uterus or cervix, potentially damaging the intestines, bladder, or nearby blood vessels, hemorrhage, infection, maternal death in rare cases, and future pregnancy complications. Most abortions fall within the first trimester. However, there are second trimester abortions and third trimester abortions, which I'll go into the statistics of third trimester abortions a little later, because people say that they aren't happening, but they absolutely are. A second trimester abortion is called a dilation and evacuation, or D&E abortion. A weighted speculum is used to open the vagina. Laminaria is a type of sterilized seaweed that absorbs water over 8 to 12 hours and swells to several times its original diameter. It's used 24 to 48 hours in advance to dilate the cervix. Metal dilators can also be used to further open the cervix. A suction catheter is used to drain the amniotic fluid, and then a Sofer clamp, a stainless steel 13-inch long clamp with 2.5 inches of rows of sharp teeth at the end, are used to grasp onto an arm or a leg. Then the abortionist pulls and tears the limbs off. Then the intestines, spine, heart, and lungs. The head is the most difficult to remove. It is grasped and crushed, and the abortionist knows that they have crushed the head when a white liquid leaks out, and that is the baby's brains. A curette then removes the placenta and leftover fetal remains. The baby parts are collected and reassembled to make sure all parts are accounted for. If I were to get an abortion right now, they would have to dismember the baby. Thankfully, in North Carolina, I believe it's at 12 weeks, you are not able to have an abortion anymore. Risks and adverse effects for this are the same as the last. Perforation or laceration to the uterus or cervix, potentially damaging the intestines, bladder, or nearby blood vessels. Hemorrhage, infection, maternal death in rare instances, and future pregnancy complications. Then the third trimester abortion, which is 1.1% of abortions. Small number, but we'll go into how many women that actually affects per year. So in the third trimester, because of the baby's size, this procedure usually takes 3 to 4 days to complete. On day 1, a lethal dose of digoxin, which is generally used to treat heart problems, is injected through a large needle into the baby's head or heart to cause cardiac arrest. Then multiple sticks of laminaria, the sterilized seaweed, are inserted to dilate the cervix for stillbirth. While waiting for the laminaria to dilate her cervix, the mother carries her dead baby with her for 2 to 3 days. On day 2, they'll replace the laminaria and do an ultrasound to make sure that the baby is dead. If the baby is alive, they will administer another lethal dose of digoxin or potassium chloride. If she goes into labor and is unable to make it to the clinic, she will give birth at home or in a hotel. She's advised to deliver into a toilet, where the abortionist will then come and take the stillborn. If she's able to make it to the clinic, she will deliver in the clinic, or will have a D&E, which is the deconstruction of the dead baby. Risks include hemorrhage, lacerations, uterine perforations, maternal death in rare cases, and future pregnancy complications. With that 1.1% of abortions, the CDC reported in 2022 that 613,383 women had abortions, so 1.1% of that is 6,747.
Just hearing that, I don't know if you could tell my reaction over here. I was just, it almost makes me sick. Well, it really does make me sick. I want to throw up after hearing all that. And I feel like that is something that they definitely do not tell these people when they enter in Planned Parenthood.
They don't tell them the procedures at all.
Absolutely not. They purposely hide that because they know if what you told to all the people that go into the Planned Parenthood, I guarantee you probably at least half of them would probably walk out if they heard what was really happening.
Especially being pregnant and being a mother, you know, understanding the level of development that my baby is at. And if I were to be told those procedures, I would say absolutely not. you'd have to dismember my baby to take it out of me, to what they call end a pregnancy. Ending a pregnancy is ending another life. From the moment of conception, it is a unique piece of human DNA that has never existed before and will never exist again. And then it develops so rapidly from the moment of conception until even where I am right now.
Wow. It's just, it's unreal. And just, again, reading off those statistics, it's just really, it's really sad. And as much as it's numbers and analytical things like that, it's so much more than that. You know, that
still 40,000 women having to go to the ER from an abortion pill procedure. Right.
And do you have like any of the demographics of the groups that are being hurt the most by these procedures?
Yeah, actually, the CDC in 2022 reported that 39.5% of the women who come in for these abortion procedures are black, 31.9% are white, 21.2% are Hispanic, and 7.3% are other.
Wow, for a group that says that they care all about protecting the minorities and everything, these numbers almost act contrary to that.
I think it's also a cultural issue because for black families, the fathers are way less likely to be in the home.
Yeah.
I think that also scares women a lot, understandably so, that, you know, you're pregnant with somebody's baby who isn't going to be in your life, who isn't going to stay in your life. And I think that's a lie that a lot of women are told, is that if you become pregnant, you're not going to be able to take care of this baby on your own. And it's a lot better to abort your baby, to kill, dismember, poison your baby, and get rid of it instead of taking care of it on your own. And I also think that's quite misogynistic that you can say, oh, you can't take care of this on your own. You can't chase that career if you have a baby, you know. Or you can't take care of it on your own. If the father's going to leave, there's no point in protecting life then.
I feel like it's hypocrisy as well because there's this whole equality movement and, you know, women can do anything that men can do, but then in this case...
you need abortions
right.
to be able to do what men can do.
Right. And then do you know why Planned Parenthood was first started? Do you know why Planned Parenthood was first created?
There's a quote of Margaret Sanger saying that there should be no more babies, that it's unwise to have babies, not intelligent to have babies. Also to try to eliminate certain ethnicities as well.
She was a very well-known racist who did not like black people. So I think in a world of heated debates, how do you approach these conversations? You said you've had conversations in the past that went really well and then others that were not so hot. I actually had the pleasure of seeing a few words spoken to you not too long ago. But how do you go about having these heated debates, and like what's a strategy that helps bridge the divides without compromising your principles?
Yeah, so I would actually like to first start out with the not so respectful debate that I had with somebody recently that Martin just mentioned. One of my friends, actually, who's really close to me, she started having this abortion debate with me from something that I posted on my story that wasn't related to abortion at all. She started cussing at me and saying all sorts of things, saying you wouldn't know what it's like to be raped. That one was also... I feel like the pro-choice side is feminists until it's a woman who doesn't agree with you. It was really hard to have to hear some of those words from her telling me that I'm stupid, and I didn't respond angrily in any of my messages. I didn't respond the same way that she did. You know, I was just trying to, like I'm doing right now, just say the facts that I know, you know, and make an argument for life. And then, 4 years of friendship kind of just felt like it went down the drain. But people that I've known for a shorter amount of time in high school, actually, we've been able to approach this debate in a much more respectful manner. When it first comes up, I'm going to say, hey, I disagree with you here. And we can talk about this if you want to, but I want you to know that I respect you as a person, and I would like the same respect. And we think differently, you know, but, you know, it's also important to share ideas. And it's important to disagree. And it's important to listen when you do disagree with other people, you know?
Absolutely. So you faced a lot of pushback in the costs for advocating for this issue. What has been the toughest challenge, and how has it shaped your resolve?
So I think definitely the toughest challenge would actually have been this week, having that kind of argument with my friend. And if anything, every time I have some kind of debate with somebody, it kind of strengthens my stance on my side. Especially just because, like, I feel like if you have to cuss at somebody to try to get your point across, there's not really much weight behind your point, you know? But yeah, definitely having that disagreement with my friend has been probably the hardest thing in taking this stance.
I see. So I do want to switch gears a little bit here and talk about a big talking point for the pro-choice movement, and that's ectopic pregnancies. Could you elaborate on that? Because we've talked about this, but I want...
Yeah. So actually, in that debate with that friend, she said that she actually said, have fun dying the next time you get pregnant.
Oh, my Lord.
She said, if you get an ectopic pregnancy next time, have fun dying because of my stance on abortion. However, ectopic pregnancy treatment is not the same as an abortion. In fact, miscarriage can also be called a spontaneous abortion, but we don't make miscarriage illegal. We don't aim to make miscarriage illegal. It's not on purpose, you know. So an ectopic pregnancy, basically, for those of you who don't know, it's where the fertilized egg implants somewhere where it cannot grow into a fetus. There's a 99% mortality rate for untreated ectopic pregnancies. Usually it's in the fallopian tube. Sometimes I think it's really low in the uterus, in which case I think there is a case of somebody carrying to term and delivering that baby. But in most cases, ectopic pregnancies, the egg implants in the fallopian tube, which can cause the fallopian tube to rupture. An ectopic pregnancy treatment will basically cut out that part of the fallopian tube, take it out, and it is not considered an abortion. It is a medically necessary procedure. It's a medical emergency. It needs to be treated immediately once it's found.
So it's not an abortion?
It's not an abortion. Though it is still very saddening because it is, you know, sticking with my stance on life begins at conception. New human DNA has been conceived, you know, and it starts growing. But in that case, it can't be protected. But I think they are making some strides toward reimplanting the ectopic pregnancies. So maybe in the near future, we'll be able to reimplant and keep those pregnancies.
Absolutely.
So I hear a lot of people on the pro-choice side also argue that fetus is a parasite. But actually, as much as the mother is giving nutrients to the baby in utero, the baby's actually giving back to the mother, like fetal cells and stem cells. They help support the immune system, help repair maternal tissues, and signal need for nutrients. Fetal cells have been found in scar tissue, and it also reduced the risk of rheumatoid arthritis and also kills breast cancer cells. Wow. So that's why your risk for breast cancer actually goes down after you've been pregnant, while you're pregnant and after.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a superwoman just because I have a baby in my uterus.
No, that's amazing. So yeah. I think that pretty much kills the argument because definition of a parasite is...
It feeds off of you. And it also has to be a different species to be a parasite. No matter how many times I have sex with my husband, it's always going to be a human. I'm never going to have like a baby hippopotamus as adorable as they are, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
So, and also that being said, you know, constitutionally, it's put in a very specific order: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Your liberty doesn't go over someone else's life, you know? And it's a human right, you know, to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
This is another fun one that I do want to go on the same note, is if a pregnant woman unfortunately gets shot and dies, they don't rule it a homicide. It's considered a double homicide, which is just another little tidbit that kind of furthers that. But yeah. So looking at policy landscapes like recent court decisions, Roe v. Wade, where do you see the pro-life movement heading in the next few years, and what role can everyday people play in this?
Yeah, well, Roe v. Wade was definitely good, at least making it up to the states to decide. I think it's like 11 states have completely illegalized abortions. Unfortunately, where I'm from, Oregon, there's still no restrictions on abortion. But I think if people talk about it more, if more people can understand what really happens in abortion procedures and what happens to women from abortions, I think if we're able to bring that to light more, we might be able to pass more policies in more states, creating an abortion ban. Also, I'd like to mention that alongside ectopic pregnancies and such, abortion is never medically necessary, especially when we talk about that third trimester abortion. After the baby is dead, the woman has to deliver it. No matter what, after you become pregnant, you have to deliver the baby. It's just, I guess, your choice whether you would like to deliver it dead or alive. So people will say, oh, women will die if you don't get an abortion, but then especially late term, early delivery, a lot of procedures without abortion will try to care for both the mother and the baby's life. Of course, prioritizing the mother's life, but early delivery, you can still try to keep the baby alive. You can try to carry for as long as you can, but if there's a medical emergency, the mother is always prioritized. But no, abortion is never medically necessary.
Absolutely. Well. What do you say to men like me who feel like they don't have a voice in this whole topic? I know that there's a lot of men out there, including myself at times, who feel like we don't have a say in this because of what has been pushed down our throats of men can't decide on this issue. You're not a woman, all these different things. What do you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you believe that human life is worthy of protection, then you can absolutely say something about the pro-life movement. What was it? 7 men passed Roe v. Wade to begin with. I think, in fact, that abortion is pro-patriarchy, I guess, to use the feminists' term. I think it relieves a lot of responsibility off of men who don't want to have kids or who just want to sleep around, You don't have to pay child support. You don't have to be an active father, in your kid's life, because a lot of women are told by society to just abort your baby, And I think that actually benefits men more because then they don't have to worry about it and they can just go and do whatever they want. Also, if you are a man who cares about women, you should also know that abortion pills, Plan B, these things are also things that are bought largely by sex traffickers. They'll buy them in bulk and they'll take young kids into Planned Parenthoods for abortion procedures. There is actually a video online from Live Action where they go undercover into a Planned Parenthood and they ask about oh, well, we're in sex work. Some of these girls are 14, 15 years old. And they'll say, well, just say that they're 15, I think that if you're a man who genuinely cares about women, who genuinely cares about children, and also babies in the womb, life that's worthy of protection, you should absolutely go out and fight. It doesn't matter if you're never going to have to be pregnant, Support women. I think the most supportive thing you can do is fight against abortion and fight for women who are struggling through pregnancy. I'm pregnant right now. It's not easy, but definitely don't be afraid to fight for women in that way.
Would you be in favor of holding men more accountable on their actions?
Absolutely, yes. I think that rapists should have a longer time in prison, first of all, and I think that men who get their girlfriends pregnant should absolutely either play an active role or be charged more for child support, You are absolutely just as responsible for your actions as the woman is. And, similarly, the woman is responsible for her actions. But, yeah, men should definitely have to contribute. If they create life, a woman shouldn't have to deal with that alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of ties hand in hand with my first podcast episode a little bit about like the nuclear family and how we need to have more structure. And this can tie perfectly into that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, there are certain relationships between men and women that shouldn't go on. You know, I'm not going to deny that, you know, but I think if your girlfriend gets pregnant, you should try to step up and support her, you know, and it's very important for children to grow up with a father, you know. The mother is naturally going to be more emotional, naturally going to be more nurturing, and the man is naturally going to be a little harder, you know. Teach you some of those like hard life lessons that women are, we don't really do that. Like, I'm certain that I'm going to be a lot more gentle with my children than my husband is going to be, you know, and I'm totally fine with that. He wants to throw our kids into the water and teach them how to swim that way, and I kind of just want to set them in there and like let them float on their back, you know. But, you know, life isn't easy, you know, and I think that we need more fathers in the home also to teach kids that, and, you know, to teach like the value of hard work. There's a lot of reasons why men are important in the house.
Absolutely. I would say that in the past I've always said pro-choice to a point, but just learning from not only you but online and seeing these horrific videos of what an abortion is like, I believe that every day my opinion is teetering closer and closer to being an absolute pro-life person, if I'm not already there yet. But yeah, I think it's so important to just be educated, and I know it's always going to be a fight because the left is always going to have this abortion, everyone gets an abortion, like Oprah Winfrey. You get an abortion. So I think that how we can start switching and at least coming to a compromise is they should show those videos of exactly what's being done.
Actually, I'd like to mention there's like Baby Olivia laws. If you haven't seen online, there's a Baby Olivia video. It's like an animated video that shows the development of a baby from fertilization until birth. And in 7 states, it has to be taught in sex ed classes. If you're going to be participating in sex, you have to know that pregnancy is a potential outcome from having sex. And if you're going to teach a sex ed class, you have to teach what happens in pregnancy, in prenatal development.
Absolutely. I would agree. So before we wrap this up and go into some of the more fun topics, is there anything that you would like to add today?
Yeah, actually, I would like to add, along the lines of abortion is not pro-women and abortion is bad for women, abortions for women actually increase the risk of suicide by 2 to 6 times, according to the Charlotte Lozier Institute. Women are also 2.5 to 3 times more likely to use marijuana, 2 times more likely to use and misuse alcohol, more than 3 times more likely to use illicit drugs. They are 30 to 37% more likely to suffer from depression, and 23 to 34% of them are more likely to have anxiety. Of 1,000 women, more than 60% reported high levels of pressure to abort, back to the sex trafficking thing that I talked about. Not all women actually make their own choice to have abortions. So if you are on the pro-choice side, I'd argue that you are more so on the pro-abortion side instead of pro-choice, because women don't actually always get the choice. And then I would also like to add a resource if you are pregnant or you are a new parent. It's called standingwithyou.org. It's run by Students of Life for America. You put in your zip code and it gives you nonviolent resources, both public and private, and federally funded resources, community centers, pregnancy centers. I actually just checked it out today. There's like at least 15 resources within like 10 miles of us for like food banks and maternity clothes and things like that. There's a lot of ways that people are going to support you if you just ask for it, you know?
Absolutely. So now we're going to move on to some of the more fun questions that we have in store for today. So the first one being, what's a book, film, or piece of art that you highly recommend people to see or read?
So I really enjoyed The Hunger Games. I actually really enjoy a lot of...
My cousins would love you.
the books with... There's themes of like government control, you know, and I think especially living in America, that's a good book to read because it kind of like makes you think, I mean... some places are very controlling over their people, you know, to an extent that it might kind of feel like the Hunger Games, and it's kind of nice to live in the United States where we have freedom of speech, you know, but I think it's also super inspiring, Katniss as a character, you know, just shooting her arrows, you know, and just also how she cares for Rue, you know, that was a very touching moment, both in the movie and in the books, you know, laying flowers for her. But I would definitely recommend The Hunger Games.
Do you have to read it or watch it first?
Oh, man. So I watched all of them first. I know.
That's like sacrilegious in the book reading community.
But the books are really good too.
Okay.
I would definitely recommend reading the books first. The books provide a lot more details. It really puts you in the world rather than watching the movie, and it's a lot more enjoyable to read the books than just watch the movies.
Absolutely. Would you rather watch The Hunger Games or Harry Potter?
I actually haven't watched or read Harry Potter.
Wow. I am sorry. We normally pre-vet our people that come on the show. Clearly, I did a bad job. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Well, now you have to. I
guess so.
For sure. So, if you were not my wonderful editor-in-chief, what career would you pursue?
Ooh. Actually, maybe something music, maybe performing arts.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, I actually made the intro jingle for the Martin Memo, you know. I've heard it so many times it's stuck in my head.
Oh, yeah.
But I might want to produce music, you know, sing. I was in choir for 5 years, you know. I'd love to do performing arts. But aside from that, I feel like I am already kind of fulfilling my dreams. I have a husband who loves me, and I love him very much. And we have a kid on the way, you know, so...
What more could you ask for?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
And always wanted to find somebody who I really love and who really loves me, and I feel like I have it all.
I think you do. You have a wonderful husband, and you have a wonderful baby on the way.
He's laying on the couch right now.
So, with you being pregnant and everything, tell us about some of your pregnancy cravings, if you have any.
Oh my gosh. I actually have not been craving anything sugary. Specifically sugary, I haven't been craving anything. I've actually been kind of like staying away from sugar, not even on purpose. I guess an aversion to sugar. But I actually did like have a craving for corn dogs and hot dogs, which I found out later that you're not supposed to have because it has like an elevated risk of listeria, and you're supposed to stay away from anything that could possibly give you foodborne illness while you're pregnant, because it could harm the baby's development.
So your husband bought a 20 case of corn dogs for no reason then?
It's sitting in our freezer now.
Oh, Lord. Well, I'll take them. You know, I don't have... My fridge is pretty empty right now.
I think there's only 4 left.
Oh, my Lord. Good Lord. You bought that like a week ago. Oh, man. I love it. Well, hey, you know, one of the last things that we do on the show is just all of our... We still have to get the picture in there for our continued listeners.
I have the perfect picture. It will be in there, I promise.
It will, 100%. But go ahead and sign it because you are another guest on our wonderful show here.
I've been waiting for this moment.
She's been practicing her signature in the mirror.
In the mirror?
Yeah, I don't
know. I'll put it right next to Sylvia's. She's my bestie now.
Yeah. Perfect. Another one added to the frame. So, well, hey, you have been terrific. I think we have to bring you up here more instead of in the back more.
I'd love to be up here more.
Absolutely. We got another fellow yapper, so I love it. It's good. For sure. So we'll have to have a plan for sometime here in the near future. Well, folks, that is all we have in store for today. I will see you back here on Friday as I break down a mystery topic. Please share your thoughts on X. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Martin Memo, and let's grow this community together. Now, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is The Martin Memo. The Martin Memo.